the country that doesn't exist. Transnistria is officially part of Moldova, and visitors can tour the region and visit Tiraspol, the country's capital. But locals will tell you that they are not Moldova, they're their own country, and they want to be recognized around the world. This battle has been going on for decades and does not appear to be getting any closer to being resolved. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you can be updated by my new videos. The Goths would overrun it, and Attila the Hun would subsequently ravage it. The Goths would finally retake the land, but the political situation would be tumultuous since the region would be split between two tribes. The situation would only worsen from there. Various tribes, including the South Slavs and Turkic nomads who lived in the area, used the location as a frequent crossroads. In the early 2nd millennium, it was dominated by the Turkic Cuman tribe, which spoke a variety of languages and civilizations. However, this was the age of empires, and autonomous states did not last forever. In the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire made inroads into the region, putting most of modern-day Moldova under its control, while the region that would become Transnistria would instead become part of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. However, centuries of war and bloodshed were only getting started. Transnistria was at a fork in the road for numerous powers, and it would be overrun several times. On its coast, the Byzantine Empire built a large stronghold. It was ruled by the Republic of Genoa in the 14th century until the Turkish army invaded. Tiraspol, the new city created by those who escaped the conquest, would eventually become Transnistria's capital. Occasionally, the region was partitioned between several powers. In some cases, such as the Polish-Lithuanian Confederacy, a larger power might merge with an existing one. However, as the modern age approached, a new power emerged. In the late 1700s, the territory was diverse, with Romanians, Ukrainians, Poles, nomadic Tatars, and Russians living there. But it was that last group that was most important, because the Russian Empire was expanding, and it wanted to absorb all of the area that might be deemed within its sphere of influence. To avoid bloodshed, the country was divided into two parts. The southern part was granted to the Russian Empire in 1792, and the northern part was given to the Polish Empire a year later in the second partition of Poland. The Russians moved fast to increase the population of the area by bringing in large numbers of people. Moldovan peasants were given tax-free land by Russia's government in order to convert the region into a new center. The region's new status as a Russian border community meant economic boom times, but all good things must come to an end. Under Russian authority, the Romanian population grew disgruntled, and the Bessarabian national movement arose around the time of World War I. They requested that the territory be included into Greater Romania, but Romania refused to comply in order to avert a confrontation with Russia. Around the same time, the Soviet Union came to power and proposed an autonomous communist zone for Transnistria. But it wouldn't be an easy road. In 1927, a large workers' uprising prompted the Soviet authorities to dispatch troops to Tiraspol to quell the disturbances, which resulted in thousands of deaths. Many people fled to Romania, and those who stayed were subjected to a cruel rule. And World War II was only a few years away. The Moldavian Soviet Socialist Republic was established in 1940, but it did not last long. Axis soldiers entered Bessaranoa a year later and soon gained control of the region. This was the time when it was renamed Transnistria, and Romanian authorities immediately reversed the Soviet alterations. Churches were reopened, schools began to refocus on the region's ethnic heritage, and theaters and schools resumed their earlier programming. The population faced an uncertain future, caught between the Soviet army and the Nazi authority, and were once again divided along racial lines. Their circumstances will shift again by the end of the war. In 1944, the Soviet army retook the province after the Axis forces and the Romanian government were forced out. Stalin wasted no time in enacting harsh retaliation against the local Romanians, deporting thousands to gulags and subjecting the Moldavian SSR to even harsher Russification procedures. While the Soviets oppressed Moldavia as a whole, Transnistria's economy prospered. During the Soviet era, it became a hub of industry, had a military installation built there, and controlled Moldavia's economy for decades. However, the world would soon alter once more, and Transnistria would face its most difficult period in decades. In the 1980s, the Soviet Union was led by a new leader, and much of the world exhaled a sigh of relief. Mikhail Gorbachev was a far less aggressive character than his predecessors, and his perestroika and glasnost policies resulted in less international conflict and a more liberal political climate in the Soviet Union. However, within enclaves such as Transnistria, ancient hostilities resurfaced. Transnistria's population was evenly split, about 40% Moldavian, just over a quarter Ukrainian, and a quarter Russian, with small ethnic minorities thrown in for good measure. This resulted in linguistic and cultural clashes without the Soviets enforcing a one-size-fits-all strategy. And that building tension would shortly erupt. They organized an informal congress and declared themselves an independent nation. They hoped that Gorbachev's tolerance would lead him to acknowledge their independence, but he instead declared it void. Moldova proclaimed independence and claimed the region after the Soviet Union fell apart. They quickly launched a military assault on the territory in an attempt to reunite it with Moldova, to which Russia retaliated. While the Soviet Union was no longer in existence, Russia, led by President Boris Yeltsin, had no intention of ceding any more land. The Russians routed the new Moldovan army, and the conflict was concluded in a matter of months with a ceasefire. And an unexpected status quo would emerge from the ceasefire. On both sides of the river, a three-party joint control commission would take over security and establish the region as a demilitarized zone. Transnistria would be allowed to administer itself as a semi-autonomous republic, with Russia, Moldova, and the local government of Transnistria working together to create policies. However, it would be recognized internationally as part of Moldova, which did not satisfy anyone concerned. Many Moldovans seek what they regard as their land, many Russians believe it is theirs, and many Transnistrians believe they are entitled to complete independence. But for the time being, the pseudo-nation is stuck in an awkward limbo. What is the current state of affairs in Transnistria? There is a separate government, parliament, and military in the region. It's allowed to have its own currency and police force, and any mail it sends will be branded as coming from Transnistria. It even has its own national song and flag, as one would expect from a country. It just requires one thing: international recognition as a country, which is committed to maintaining the fragile peace that the Joint Commission negotiated for the region. However, some people would like to see that change. Transnistria is not recognized as a country by any government on Earth, mostly to prevent upsetting the balance and perhaps angering world powers. However, three other entities in the same boat do, and they have a lot of similarities. Abkhazia is a territory of Georgia that is recognized as such. The region's economic situation is dire, and many senior citizens feel their fortunes would improve under Russia's social safety net. But Russia appears uninterested, and neither Russia nor Romania are making any moves to end the 3-decade ceasefire that has resulted in the current situation. So, how does it feel to travel to a country that doesn't exist? Because the region lacks its own international airport, you'll have to travel into Moldova or Ukraine unless you charter a tiny plane. From there, you'll go by bus or train, and make sure you have all of your papers in order because you'll likely pass through several border checkpoints. You can also take an organized trip, but you'll be at the mercy of the operator and must pray that everything with the local guards is in order. Also, once you're inside, be cautious. You're dealing with 3 separate security forces, all of which are interested in the region's military. You could end up at a checkpoint manned by unfriendly military personnel if you take a wrong turn. Make sure not to bring up politics, the region is still hot, and the wrong remark could elicit retaliation. And, maybe most importantly, refrain from using the term Transnistria. It's an old Romanian term that hardly no one knows, and most people call it Prindestrovskaia instead. Using the other phrase will immediately identify you as an outsider. However, once inside, it may be a fascinating place. Although Transnistria does not have much of a tourism industry, it is noted for its open-air markets where hungry travelers can sample local Russian cuisine. The region is also famed for its brandy and cognac, but bring cash and be prepared to swap it at a currency exchange if you don't have any foreign credit cards and checks aren't accepted. If you keep your eyes open and your wits about you, a country that doesn't exist might be an unexpected journey into a world that few people outside of the region have ever seen. Check out How Did the Cold War Happen? For more on the era that helped shape the region, or watch Real Reason Russia Wants to Expand for more on the region's complicated politics. I hope you find this video helpful. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe as it really helps our channel, and remember to give your feedback in the comments below. See you in the next video with some more interesting topics and